how can we keep from singing, right? When we are in the right frame, we know our truth, the pause is settled in, life is good no matter what's going on. I don't know about you, but that's the time I get the goosebumps, and you really understand that life is, it's how can you keep from singing? I really just love that idea. And the Three Little Birds and it made me think of, I was singing Esty to sleep last night, and you don't want to hear me sing, but I'm going to tell you. I sang to her about the sun, right? Sun, sun, Mr. Golden Sun, you came out just for me. And you go to sleep, and then the moon comes up, and then I know it's perfectly. Right? And I just make them up, but it's so much fun, and I am so grateful to be here. And when I first come out and I stand in the welcome, I kind of lose myself a little bit, because one, I'm so excited to be here. Two, I'm looking at all your faces, and Clay puts this beautiful affirmation up that I've requested of him, and I always forget it. Because I just get so excited about being here. But anyway, here we go. Did you hear about the burglar that broke into the pastor's house? No. This burglar broke into the home, and he was looking around, and he heard a soft voice say, "Jesus is watching you." The burglar looked around, kind of confused. He turned around, and his flashlight, he saw a parrot in a cage. He asked the parrot, "Are you the one talking?" And the parrot said, "Yes." He asked the parrot, "What's your name?" The parrot said, "Moses." And the burglar asked, "What kind of pastor names their parrot Moses?" And the parrot said, "The kind that names his guard dog Jesus." All right, I've redeemed myself from the cats. Yay for me. All right, we are talking today about the pause, the feel, respond, master your emotions, awareness before taking action. And Ernest Holmes aligns us with this quote. "We must be careful not to confuse subjective emotions with spiritual realization, but wait upon the Spirit of truth, which will give us a clear perception of a reality and the knowingness when to seek and proceed and take action." Isn't that beautiful? He's telling us here that often in life, because we're people and we all have different experiences, that we can react instead of respond. And his encouragement to us is to pause. And I have really been thinking about this all week. It's, when you're writing a talk, the talk happens to you. And when you're married, it happens through you. And, your relations with your family and your marriage is always your highest karmic situation, because you're with them constantly. Your choices and actions can sometimes bring an immediate reaction. And the wantingness to respond with love and kindness instead of, "I know." Sorry, that was loud. Are you going to tell me that again? Really? And then, we retreat and we think about our response, not only in our relationships with our family, but our friends. So I really wanted to dive into understanding the need to pause before responding. And so the primary aim of pausing before responding is to interrupt that automatic emotional reaction, that creating space for that internal indwelling calmness to settle in. The practice for managing emotional triggers and situations, it really helps us to understand and value that which we're pitting ourselves against, possibly, including ourselves. When we learn to pause in the objective world with the people in our field, we also learn to pause in our minds with ourselves as that recording is running rampant. Some situations, just in case you didn't know, that might require a pause. Rejection or perceived rejection. I don't know about you. Can you think of a time where you were rejected and it really hurt you and you wanted to say something right away? Unjust treatment or criticism. Being excluded or ignored. Disapproval or criticism from others. Feeling unwanted. Insecurity or self-doubt. Failure or perceived failures. Public speaking or social situations. I know, ooh, I lost the earring. See, things happen and you just pause and put it back in. There we go. Things happen and I wanted to talk about real life situations so you can put yourself in the position of thinking about when a pause may be required. So some points about the pause. When we seek to interrupt that autocratic emotional response, I think of a situation where you might receive a critical comment from a colleague. Your heart starts to race and you recognize that physical reaction, maybe anger, that trigger. It just really pushes your buttons. And we have to become really aware and start to practice noticing. So I know one of the things that my teacher has set me up for when I met with him was to notice first. When we start to become self-aware and we notice, we can feel that deep sense of dissatisfaction that we want to project onto others, thinking that if they comply, we'll be happy. And the truth is, even if they do comply, what we're reacting to is a memory of a circumstance that is seated in your mind from a distant past something or other. That it is rarely the person. So if we go back to the list and we're talking about rejection, that person might be demonstrating rejection, but we can't react to something that we don't already know. So when we are feeling a sense of rejection, we are really responding to that person through our situation, holding them accountable for what somebody might have done so many years ago. Bosses, parents, teachers, we traverse this life with so many relationships, and they're all there to point us in the right direction and to move us towards home. So the pause creates a space for a thoughtful response. In that heated discussion, pausing gives you time to think about your message without escalating the situation. I know I'm guilty of it. You can ask Bill. Because we're married and things happen. My sister, my mom, my brother, it just happens. And so we really start to look at the value or the benefits. Pausing before reacting creates an opportunity to respond. It regulates our emotions. It gives us access to better decision making. With the kids, I read a lot of books with the kids because I'm trying to do it right this time. Is there a right? I don't know. Because when Luke goes, "Now," I go, "Well, I guess I didn't read that book right. I need to go back again." But what you learn with children is they don't have access to certain parts of their brain when they're having a meltdown. And guess what? Neither do we. We are so in tune with the feeling and the frustration and the desire to be heard and seen, or whatever the issue is. We want to project that and make the other person the bad guy. But the truth is, we just take a moment, settle in, increase our self-awareness, and it allows us to respond in a thoughtful way. The value is enhanced self-awareness, improved interpersonal relationships, better problem solving. I don't know about you, but I like better problem solving. And decision-making skills. A lot of times, fear comes up and reactions happen because we're in problem solving, and we might have an issue where we feel in our life we haven't been heard. So it creates a scenario where it has to be my way or the highway. And then it really just, it puts everybody else out of the pictures, and then nobody's creativity can bubble up and come to the forefront because we're really busy reacting and trying to be heard. Think about a time where you experienced pausing before reacting, and how's it improved your relationships? How has it helped you to be better at communicating with your love or your loved ones? So how do we do this pause? Well, you know, I'm a work in progress, and I don't stand up here to profess to have all the answers or have perfected it. But some of the advice that was given to me, I'll share with you for free. Deep breathing. One of the things we do with Luke when he is having a meltdown is breathe, Luke. And he'll go, I don't want to breathe. I want YouTube. I know you want YouTube. I do. But you can't have it right now. But what we can do is breathe. And he'll go, I'm breathing. And so if a 2-year-old can have the awareness to practice this, then we can too. We just have to start to become aware of when that feeling starts in our body. We won't always notice it in our mind. And before we know it, we've spoken and said something that we can't take back. Counting to 10. I don't know about you, but I get to 5 and I'm like, I have to start all over because I forget what number I'm on because I might be so mad. But counting to 10, we do this with the kiddos too. And he'll get to 5 and go, okay, I'm done. And I'm like, good for you. And physically stepping away from the situation. So if we can't really get there, it is okay to just say, I can't, you know what, I'm feeling something and I don't know what it is, so I just need to take a moment or a break. When Rev Kath was here, she had these cards that we could throw out that said prayer, you know, and it's a good time to just stop, pause, breathe, and recognize that our emotions are running high. And even maybe just settle in and talk about it. And you might even, through the love of your colleagues or your husband or your friends, your spouse, your partner, be able to get to the core wound. Because once the core wound is identified, it's no longer a problem. Did you hear this? Once the core wound is identified, it is no longer a problem. Then the awareness comes because you recognize, if you're me, you go, oh, he's doing it again, I'm going to react. And I'm going to just go into the room and sit for a moment and really bring my awareness to my body and what's bothering me. You know, the question you might ask yourself is, how can physical actions like stepping away from a situation help you maintain control over your emotional responses? Again, for me, stepping away just gives me a moment to take a breath so that I'm not unkind with my words and demand to get my way, which I don't. So then I just stomp my feet and wish that I could lay down on the floor like Luke and bang my head. It doesn't work when you're 58. No. So some questions about that, right? We want to think about those moments of pitfalls. If so, even with the best intentions, we slipped into these reactive behaviors. We recognize the signs and we recognize we're about to react. And it's important to understand that our reactions can often respond to those feelings of those past experiences, and we are no longer in the present moment where reality, nothing is going on. All problems are in the mind. All stories are in the mind. All thinking creates the situation. When you're in the present moment of reality, in the light of day, there is nothing going on. And that's why when you bring yourself to the present moment, by that pause, the problem goes away because it was never there to begin with. It was a memory of when someone was unkind, pushed you down, made you feel small, and you are not that. That's the good news about the pause, is you get to recognize your true nature and your truth. You get to go back in time and see that story as a falsehood. You get to bring yourself to the current moment and say, I am present, and there's an indwelling spirit in me that can respond to this situation much more than my mind can. So there are some pitfalls about recognizing or reacting rather than responding. And if we don't choose to pause, we can have difficulty breaking those habitual reactions. We can feel pressured to respond immediately. I don't know, but can you think about a time where, I think about my work life before a center, and things at work can, if you don't think people are doing the things the way you should be done, you can really have something you want to say. And I recognize that it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on me to feel like I need to respond immediately instead of just saying, hey, I'm not ready to answer that, or I don't have all the information I need. A pause can sound like that. It can say, thank you. Email me and I'll get back to you on it. Misrepresenting the pauses for weaknesses or indecision. We can be afraid of this. We can be afraid that if we pause, someone might think we're weak. Another story, of course, an idea or a belief. We can fear that they misrepresent who we truly are, but the reality is the pause is who you are, because spirit is a big, giant pause. It is a feeling of complete and utter bliss where there is nothing going wrong. That's why when you bring your truth into the light of day, well, the truth is, it's always the light of day. When you take the story away, when the smoke clears, as Hazel tells me, then your true self is there present, and it always knows how to meet the situation. But we might need the pause or to step away to align ourselves with who we are, drop the story, and come back and have a genuine conversation with yourself or others. We might pause with hesitation, and that's actually a sign of strength. It's a sign of thoughtfulness. I often find when I pause, people say thank you. Thank you for just letting me know that you're not ready to answer that question. It kind of lowers the vibration and brings everybody into an alignment. And if the other person isn't understanding, it's okay, because you are the only one, really. There's only one. And if the other person doesn't come in alignment, that's okay. That's not your problem. We've talked about boundaries, and pausing really helps us to set a boundary. And if you're like me and you don't know how to set the boundary, you're like, excuse me, 1 minute. I need to step away, and then I go Google, what's a boundary for this? And then I wait for the moment. I always tell Spirit, when that moment comes around, you've empowered me to have the right words, and I might even go back if I'm feeling calm and say, hey, I'm confident, blah, right? So there are so many ways. A pause is a particular skill of responding. And when we are at odds with ourselves, because I don't know about you, but when I react, I feel really guilty, right? And if I feel really guilty about the way I responded to you, I might try to stay away from you the next time, because I don't want to be accountable for the way I treated you, and I don't, and then I don't know how to go or proceed, right? And then they're like, oh man, she's still mad at me, and no, I'm just hiding. So that brings me to the last point. The last point is, what do we do when we don't know what to do? Navigating when you can't see the trigger. How to stay calm when it's hard to find clarity, when they've pushed that story that's so deep down, unconscious, buried behind the rocks, under the moat, through the castle we go. Sometimes you just can't get there despite your best efforts. We can't clearly identify the trigger. Well, if I were you, I'd call a practitioner. That's what I would do. And I do. Ask Hazel. I would call a practitioner and I would say, hey, I can't get to the point of this. And there are many practitioners that I utilize for different reasons, and they're all fabulous. But when it's really challenging, the pause helps me to at least respond thoughtfully. And I'm not always good at it, and it's okay, because we get to go back and start over again. My teacher, Reby, always used to say, don't worry about it. It's going to come back around. You'll get another chance. It'll always come back around until you find that little thing, that little pesky, flea that's making you scratch. So, techniques like grounding exercise and focusing on our breath and a simple acknowledgement that it's okay not to have the answers can really help us maintain our composure and prevent reactive behavior before the damage is done. When you're feeling overwhelmed by a situation and you cannot pinpoint why, just ground yourself. For me, it's like my mantra is, I'm a divine being of love and light. My nature is calmness, beauty, perfection. I accept people right where they're at, and that includes me. And I only know love. And it invites the most, I might have to say that 10 times, by the way, okay? Sometimes we just have to have a mantra to bring us back. And that breathing, following the breath, it really just has this way of slowing down the mind, and we can see our responsibility in it. Even letting go and releasing the uncertainty and the fear, because at the cause of all of it is fear. The reason why we need a pause is we've traveled into fear, an error in thinking, a false belief about how we are viewed. And so if you're a people person or people pleaser, this can be exceptionally painful. And so whatever your personality type, there are lots of references online. And I have provided the journal sheet and all of those things so you can explore. But imagine a community where we are pausing, where we are recognizing our particular inclinations to see the world a particular way. Do we see the problem first? Do we ask, what does this moment need? Do we come into community and really hold ourselves accountable to what we all need to bring ourselves together to have that connection? And that all comes from our highest and true nature. And I have work to do. We all have work to do. That's why we're here on a Sunday, to learn how to do it. And we can make it a commitment to do it all together. So acceptance of uncertainty releases us from fear. If you're in a situation where it's just uncertain, just stay calm. My son used to do the chive, I don't know, like stay calm and carry on. You saw it on all the bumper stickers, It's true. Stay calm and carry on. Or just in the face of uncertainty, just go, there is one thing that is certain, and that is God, spirit, love, life, beauty. And I am all of those. And so is the situation that I am facing. The last question I have is, how can you practice acceptance when you're unsure of how you're feeling in a certain way? Like, how can this help you respond more thoughtfully? Be generous to yourself and others, and just, recognize when you're driving down the street and you've got your, Daniel Nahmad blaring, and you're in the middle of your treatment, and you're like, I'm going to church today, and someone cuts you off, and all of a sudden you're, just pause. And remember, they're in a hurry to get somewhere, and you're just going to the center to celebrate your life and the life of others in a loving, beautiful way. Today, I invite you into the pause. I invite you into that space where your highest self is always at the forefront, because it is really who you are. I invite you into that field of love and light and beauty. I'll meet you there so that we can share at our highest vibration, our highest magnetism, and in the truth. You are already who you desire to be, and so it is. Grounding that in a prayer. that I just know right here, right now, there is nothing going on but God. That we let go of the stories, we let go of the experiences, the situations, all the things that cloud our mind and keep us busy from being who we truly are. When we drop the pretense, the need to be something other than who we truly are, we embody all of who we are. This is the message of Ernest Holmes and all the great teachers. That love, that feeling of bliss, that is your nature. And when you are there, you are home. And if it slips away, it just means we've stepped into an error in thinking. We pause, reflect, and come back to our truth. After a period of time, the bliss becomes who we are, and the discomfort becomes so foreign that we do not travel there. And I am claiming that for this community, for myself, and for you and all we meet today. That as we practice this, we practice sitting in our natural state. In that natural state, God is expressed at the highest level. At your consciousness, it informs you, it gives you the path forward, it points the way, and your body, mind take action. It seats you in faith and it grows it in consciousness so that when fear arises, you can say, there is nothing to fear because I know who I am. And I recognize this truth, I proclaim it, I stand on it, I will not waver from it. It is the truth beyond all truths. It is the present moment. It is here, it is now, it is love. And I send these words for myself and everyone who hears them, everyone who repeats them, everyone who comes in contact with us today. They want to know what's going on because we have the most beautiful way of looking at life, and we stand on that today, releasing these words into the ethers, knowing they cannot be returned void, because the truth always reminds you you are already free, and so it is.